Welcome back to episode 2 of the Nest Egg. You got Daniel and myself here. No Quint today. So when we're doing these episodes, it's going to basically be, hey, we're trying to reach you every week and give you a good episode. So the folks that are here are going to put it together. It'll be the three of us sometimes, the two of us, just depends. So Daniel, we're rolling into the end of the year. Just had Halloween this last week. Are you guys Christmas November 1st people? Or you wait for Thanksgiving? Or what's the decoration situation?
Oh, decorations. I thought you were talking about music.
Oh, or music, yeah.
That's where I thought you were going to go with that. So I am a wait for after Thanksgiving. So usually the day after Thanksgiving is our Christmas decorating day. Because
no Black Friday shopping.
No, we don't do that at all. That doesn't really even happen anymore. It's all online.
Yeah, true.
But anyhow, yeah, we usually decorate then. And I'm usually pretty adamant about that's when Christmas music starts. But the day after Halloween, the kids wanted to start because they were listening to like Halloween songs or something. And they wanted to listen to Christmas music starting the day after in the car.
So it's game on already. Yeah, I'm a big Thanksgiving's actually my favorite holiday. I love Thanksgiving. I always have. So I'm a big wait till after Thanksgiving, and then you can start doing.
I mean, it's like 70 this week here in the Bluegrass.
Yeah,
so
surprisingly.
It's hard to get excited about. Let it snow,
which is fantastic, and we got Breeders' Cup and everything else going on. So
big week.
It's good, big week. Okay, so speaking of big weeks, tell me a little bit of an update of what's going on in the stock market, what we saw this week from the Fed and everything else.
Yeah, so first week of the month here in November, we had Federal Reserve FOMC committee, Federal Open Market Committee. So if you say FOMC committee, it's a little redundant. But the FOMC met, increased interest rates by 0.75%, which was expected. And then we had the press release comes out first, and then you have Jerome Powell, the chairman of the FOMC, comes out after and then does Q&A.
Yeah, so like that in-between time from 2 to 2:30, the market seemed to really like what the press release at least said.
Yeah, the press release kind of really alluded to or indicated that not so much the words data dependent, but that the committee wants to see the effect of what they've been doing so far prior to really committing to what they do next, which is actually kind of just logical. I mean, that would make sense. But they've been raising so aggressively to try to really get interest rates up through the neutral level, which is above the sort of restrictive, what would really kind of restrict monetary policy to some extent. And so they've had to go pretty aggressively, and what the initial report alluded to is they need to kind of take it easy from here to see what the effect of that is so far.
Yeah, but then Jay Powell came out 30 minutes later, spoke pretty hawkishly, and hawkishly meaning, hey, we're going to continue to raise rates. We want to fight inflation. Until we see inflation coming down, we're going to be aggressive. And kind of the market's reaction to that and seeing that he's saying, hey, we're not done anytime soon, had kind of the negative effect in flipped markets.
Yeah, to be fair, they were, I think, the same message, really, that the Fed is not done, that the Fed needs to continue to raise until they are very confident that inflation has been, at least this round of inflation, has sort of been conquered or abated or whatever. But the one message was sort of, we will assess kind of more slowly going forward, and the other message is, well, we will keep raising to some extent, whether that's aggressively or moderately or whatever, as needed. Like the path is higher. And I think what we then saw was what's called the terminal rate, where we think that ceiling will be, got kind of pushed up in this release. And I think that's really probably what riled markets maybe the most is just, and we're seeing that now ripple in the market. So the bets that traders make in the market, or the futures pointing to where rates will be, are guiding now higher than they were prior to the meeting. Which tells us that the ceiling on rates is maybe closer to that 5-ish% range rather than under 5% as it was maybe a month ago.
Yeah, and now the markets are kind of all trying to digest all that information. They're trying to digest what the Fed is doing, what they're saying, elections coming up, and then kind of just rolling into the end of the year, CPI data. There's a lot of things the markets are trying to digest, and in my opinion, I think they're trying to make kind of at least a short-term bottom is what we're seeing, but we'll see kind of how that plays out and how the markets react to all of this different news that's coming in. But there is some positives to what the Fed is doing and raising rates aggressively that we haven't seen in a very long time, especially kind of the question that we've gotten all week has been, where do I park extra cash that I have? So tell us a little bit more about what that looks like.
Certainly. So, I mean, it was only 6 to 9 months ago where if you had cash sitting in the bank account, as many of our clients and folks that we do financial planning for, I mean, you either have your emergency fund if you're working, or even if you're retired. If you're retired, you might have your 6 to 12 months of living expenses that you keep really risk free. And for years now, there was no great place that you could sock those funds away and earn any real interest on them. I mean, interest rates were effectively zero, right? But now, with what the Fed has done over this past 3 to 6 months, we now see the potential to really have effectively risk-free return on some of those money. You're not going to, you're not going to make huge double-digit returns on there, but we now see short-term treasuries, 1 year or less, yielding above 4.5%, almost 5% in U.S. government treasuries, which are effectively risk-free. So what we're encouraging folks as we're going through financial plans now is if you have those larger sums of money, say over $100,000, et cetera, that you have set aside maybe for an upcoming asset purchase, or that's your really sort of near-term emergency funds, but you don't need it in the next, say, 3 to 12 months, something like that. You can get now some level of interest on those for relatively little risk. So that's a great option.
Yeah, but if you're just talking about someone that has maybe 3 to 6 months of an emergency fund that's sitting on the sideline, that's not those large dollar amounts for big purchases or something like that. You probably want to keep that money liquid and not necessarily tie it up in a treasury that, even though you're kind of locked into whatever interest rate you buy at, you want to most of the time hold that treasury throughout the maturity.
Yeah,
so,
you want to hold those to maturity.
right.
For sure.
So you want to hold for the 3 months, 6 month, 1 year that you buy in there. So what do people look for? Or what can they do now to get a little more interest than just their checking account on those 3 to 6 month savings?
So when it comes to those kind of funds, I think liquidity is really what you're looking for. So you're looking at a savings account, something of that nature, where you can keep it, but you can transfer those funds out really easily, really quickly if you needed them in small amounts at a time, right? So a treasury, you have to buy in increments of 1,000. So you're buying or selling 1,000 at a time. But with a savings account, you might just need 10, 100, or something like that dollars to cover gaps in your budget, things like that. So in those instances, when you're talking about, that 3 to 6 month, really that liquid emergency savings, or just a little bit of extra cash you have sitting around, I really like high yield savings accounts, which sound more risky than they are, right? Because you have that term high yield.
Right.
When we talk about high yield in the bond market, we're talking about sort of junk bonds, companies that aren't really profitable or have high debt ratios and aren't really good. A high yield savings account, what all that is a savings account that yields higher than the bank that you go to around the corner. That's your brick and mortar bank. We see that typically with online savings accounts, things like Ally. I think American Express has an online savings account. There's a couple others as well. We don't promote any specific one. I personally use Ally Savings, so that's where we kind of sock our family's emergency fund. So just experientially, that's who I know and who I've utilized. But we've encountered people who use all of them, and usually I think if you kind of open your browser and Google online high yield savings account and you look at one of those, you can also go to Bankrate and they'll compare some of those. But we're looking at right now, I know Ally personally, just because that's where our family's accounts are, 2.5% on a savings account.
Yeah.
So you're talking about 1 to 3 months of living expense or something like that you want to keep.
Yeah,
liquid.
a lot
That's not
better
bad.
than maybe 0.8% that you're getting at your traditional bank,
or
or
even
less,
less, yeah.
or close to zero. So it's something to look into. It's a good option if you're just parking kind of that 3 to 6 month emergency fund. So that's kind of our question for the day, and I wanted to answer another one that we've been getting all week after Quint's email earlier in the week, and talking about Roth conversions. So Roth conversions can be a great option for you, just like we talked on the last Nest Egg, if your income is low this year. But if you just want to evaluate that situation, feel free to send us an email. We have a few questions that you can answer for us. We're going to need a tax return, things to look at, and we can answer some of those questions. Daniel and I are also putting together an on-demand webinar that we'll be sending out to you all very shortly, that you can watch and go through to see if a Roth conversion makes sense and what it really is, and we'll really break that down and go into that.
Yeah, so we're putting together some good slides. We'll kind of walk through. It'll be on demand, so it'll be a video similar to this that you can watch at any time that is convenient to you, but we'll actually walk through some of the math behind that, so you'll be able to see that illustrated and so forth. So I know Abby and Linda in our office are reaching out to clients. If you are a client of ours, you should be hearing from them at least once a quarter.
Yeah.
So you should have an email in your inbox, or they should be giving you a call. So if you haven't seen that, be sure to check your email box and or your junk folder to make sure it didn't get logged away in there. And if you have a question about Roth conversions, or if you have a significant amount of cash out there that you want to get a higher return by using treasuries, feel free to respond to them, and they'll definitely connect you with us.
All right, fantastic. We're going to wrap it up. Guys, we need your questions to make this video work and to make these episodes more valuable for you all. So send us questions at nestegg@jewelfinancial.com. That's nestegg@jewelfinancial.com. We hope to get a lot more questions and keep bringing you some good content and just kind of our feels on the week and these questions that you all have. All right, make it a great one.